Welcome everyone to the Knowledge Mavens channel. Here we inspire to create truth and beauty. We are here at the Stub Park. Take a look around. In this video, we are going to show you how to capture the beautiful Milky Way with photos and a time lapse. It's going to have 4 steps. The first step, I'm going to show you how to plan to find the Milky Way. The second step, I'm going to show you how to find a beautiful composition. Third, I'm going to show you your camera settings. And fourth, I'm going to show you how to edit those photos and put them in a time lapse. This is going to be a fun video, so let's jump in and get started.
What if I said I'm sorry? What if I make a scene?
The first thing you're going to want to do is look for a darkest sky as possible. Now, for those of you in the US, especially on the East Coast, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. Luckily for me, I'm on the West Coast, so hopefully you can find some tips in your local area of some observatories. So what I did was, you have to go at least a couple hours outside of the city, and you'll see the different zoning. And ideally, if you can get the dark here, it's going to make quite a bit of difference. On a scale of 1 to 5, this 5 being the worst, you're not going to see anything in the red. You may see somewhat of medium. This is a medium in the green and the blue, and then this is going to be your best darkest potential is getting in here. So find a good location that you can get to with a dark sky. Consider getting up on a high place like an observatory, so you're out of the trees and out of the mountains. Next, we're going to do is find out which direction is the Milky Way. So if you go to the stellarium-web.org, and you can do this on home in a web browser. First, come down here. We're going to search our location. Then if you come over here, you'll see the time. This would be at 8:30 at night. And we have a pretty good night sky here. So we're getting close to a new moon. We're going to want to change our direction until we see it, and there it is. Now we can see the Milky Way. So we're off in the southwest direction, and you can see tonight right around 8 o'clock to about 10 o'clock is the ideal. So you'll start to see there's the sun setting, and now you'll start to see it. So this is a good place to plan, so you know the direction of the Milky Way. Once you get out on site, you're going to want to use the mobile app to really get you set up, so that way you know which way to point your camera. Okay, the next thing you can do for a little bit more planning is maybe you'll want to find a good composition. Maybe you'll want to put a building or something that you find in the foreground, like a mountain or some trees. So just to give you an example, you can go over here to earth.google.com, Google Earth, and get a 3D picture of it. So I'm up here on this hilltop, but you can come up here and go in 3D. We're going to want to point our way toward the Milky Way. So in this case, it's the southwest. And then we can rotate down and look at the horizon. And I'll show you how to look at the galactic center. And you'll see that you have a pretty good view of the sky there. So that's just one option. One tip you can use is the Google Earth to help you plan. If you're taking a long trip, you might want to look at what is in the surrounding area and what the horizon looks like. The next tip you're going to want to do is look at the weather forecast. Go to weather.gov and type in your city, and we'll search there. And then if you scroll down and click on the hourly forecast, now keep in mind this is going to be accurate for the day, but it's going to start diminishing after the second and third day. So you have to keep an eye on this daily. Then come over here, down here to this blue line, and this cloud cover, you need this to be ideally 20% or less. If it's up in the 75 range, it's not going to work. It's going to block out most of the sky. If you're 25% or less, then there's a good chance you're going to see the entire night sky. And you kind of also want to pay attention to, are the clouds in the north or the south, wherever the galactic center might be. The next thing you're going to want to do is go to stardate.org, and this tells you the lunar phases. So the most ideal is a new moon, so you have a completely night sky. You can get away with before or after the new moon. If you want to do that, then you can go over here, timeanddate.com, and look at the moon rise and the moon set time. Let's say that the sun sets at 7:20 and the moon rises at 10:40. You're going to have a few hours time of darkness. I see the better moon horizon.
Wouldn't that make you mine again? You're all I ever need. Didn't I make you laugh? Didn't I make you smile?
All right, welcome to our site location. I've picked a spot that's up here on a hill. So let's take a look around here. You can see I'm higher up. This is going to be great because the Milky Way is going to be down on the horizon. So trees and and mountains aren't going to be in the way. However, if the galactic center was higher up in the sky, then you might be able to capture, say, a barn or trees. So let's talk a little bit about composition when you're on site. There's two methods in doing this. Number one is you might want to capture something in the foreground. So that could be maybe a picture of yourself with a light flare, just a lake or rocks or something. I'm not planning to do that in this example, in my photo. If I'm able to capture one by the end of making this video, then I'll show you at the end, but I'll show you kind of how to do it. Just take a flashlight, do some light painting, and you're gonna be able to capture something within 50 meters of your frame. You're not really gonna be able to get more than that. Your camera is gonna catch more of the background than you can actually see. So if you have a 20 or 30 second exposure, you're gonna see a lot of the foreground that you're not gonna see at night. So you're actually gonna catch a pretty good amount. So option number one, use a flashlight to light paint. All right, the second option for our composition is we're just gonna set it up normally, and I'll go through the camera settings, and then you can capture whatever's in the frame, and you can go and highlight it later. It's much easier on your first try. So let's look at what I'm gonna do as an example in this video. This is a simple way to start up your composition. Oh, great. We're getting rain. Not ideal right now, but we're gonna try this later on. If you look at the Stellarium app, it'll roughly give you an idea where it's at in the horizon. However, once you get on site, you don't really know where to start and end your frame. So what we're gonna do is use the Photopills app. First thing you'll do, open the sun here, scroll down, and you'll see the galactic center is between 840 and 1018. Okay, so let's go back, scroll down to night AR. And if you remember from the Stellarium app, it was right around the southwest region. So let's point that direction, and we'll slide over to about 840, and we'll see it's right there. So we're gonna put our left side of the frame there, and since we're doing a time lapse for about an hour and a half, we'll scroll over to about there. So that's where our frame will be centered. One thing to consider is lens condensation. If you're out in the cold doing the night sky, your lens is going to fog up. So what you can do is you can get some hand warmers and rubber band those around, and that will keep the lens dry. Let's talk about camera settings. So first, I'm at the lowest. The widest I can go is 15 millimeters on this lens. So this is a crop sensor. So what I need to do is I need to multiply 15 times 1.6, and I'll get 24 millimeters. If you're on a full frame, then you'll just take 15 millimeters. And then you'll take 500 divided by that number, which gives me roughly 20 seconds. I'm gonna have a shutter speed of 20 seconds. The sweet spot is somewhere in between 20 and 30 seconds. Then your aperture, you're gonna want to be wide open, so if it is as low as it can go. So if it can go 3.5 or 1.8, go the lowest you can. And then the ISO, I actually boost up the ISO to around 1600. You might wanna mess with that. A couple other useful settings can go take off the screen in the viewfinder, and what that does is it'll save on battery. This has a movie time lapse, so you actually have the option to come down here and do a movie time lapse. This is different than a photo time lapse. I prefer doing a photo because you can color grade the images, and I'll show you how to create a time lapse. This one is not going to give you as sharp of images. It's basically a video in high speed, so you're not going to get as good of exposures, in my opinion. The one other setting that you may want to consider is the image quality. You may want to do raw, and that would give you the best options for color grading afterward. Ignore my microphone, that's for vlogging. It's not good for astrophotography. But anyway, and then here's my focus. I don't have an infinity, so I'm gonna have to manually focus. If you have an infinity, you'll set it there, and that's like a figure 8. So let's come over here. If I come in a little closer, yeah. So this star, we're gonna focus in on this star here. You see it's blurry, and now it's sharp. So we're gonna try to get it as sharp as possible. Looks pretty sharp right there. So we're gonna dial it in there. That's our manual focus. Now I'm gonna show you my makeshift intervalometer. You can get these for about $15 on Amazon for most cameras with a round plug that will work. I'll link one of those in the description. But in my case, I have a Canon M50, which does not have an intervalometer plug. So what I did was I found an app. It's called TetherMonkey or DSLR remote control. It only works for Android. I couldn't find a iPhone solution, so sorry for iPhone users. But basically, you have to get a USB adapter, and then you'll just use a regular USB plug. This wasn't the greatest app, but it did do the job. I'd give it a 3 out of 5 stars. It is $10, and basically, once you plug it in, you're gonna see just like you would a remote control. So why don't I show you in the screen of what that looks like. We're gonna go into the TetherMonkey app. If you go over here to remote control, you have the same settings. You have here is the exposure or the shutter speed, here's the aperture, and here's the ISO. So I have set it to 20 seconds, 3.5 aperture, and 6400 ISO. Go over here to time lapse. For interval, I've set it to 5 seconds, duration 1 hour and 20 minutes, so that'll give us a good amount of time. 24 frames a second, which is our standard movie time, so it's going to take a total of 960 frames. It's going to give you a time lapse of 40 seconds. So then we just hit start, and then it'll automatically stop when we're done. In this step, we are going to color grade our Milky Way photos for our time lapse. I'm using Lightroom to do this. So first thing I'll do is come up here and I'll create an album, and then I'll go over here to add photos, and then you'll select the first one and you'll select the last one. Then you'll go to review it for import. I've already imported these. What you'll do is you just add to photos. Here's my originals, and you can do whatever you want with this. You can make any changes that you want. So if you hit the backslash, you can switch between both. Here's the settings that I changed to get the way that I liked it. I boosted the contrast, I lowered the highlights and the shadows, I upped the whites and lowered the blacks, I lowered the temp just a little bit and boosted the clarity. You can do your own, or you can go and get other presets. Click on your photo, hit Command C, I'm on a Mac. That will copy your setting. Click on the first photo, slide all the way to the end, hit Shift click on your last photo, then hit Shift Command B, and this will apply your settings to all of your photos. Hit OK, and this will take a minute or two, so let that run. As you can see, it applied the settings to all of your photos. Now we'll just export it. So if you right click, save to, pick out your location and hit save, and then it's going to export all those into a folder. Into Final Cut, I'll show you how to do the time lapse. If you come up here, do File, New Event, give it a name. Then we'll come over here, click on the first photo, click on the last photo, drag them into your timeline. Those will import. Then I do a Command A to select them all. Do a Control D to change your duration up here. Hit 1 and then enter. That trims all the clips down into 1 second. Then I right click, do a new compound clip, give that a name, and there you go. You have now created your time lapse. Once it's rendered, it's done and ready to play. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, leave them below. I also entered a star trails using a similar technique. If you'd like to learn more about that, comment on that as well. If you're another YouTuber and you love to create videos, comment below and I would love to collaborate with you. All right, that's gonna do it. See you in the next video.